Hello! Welcome back to Return to Retro. I'm Adam. When it comes to the Nintendo catalog, there is no shortage of titles that begin with the word Super. Super Mario Brothers, Super C, Super Jeopardy, Superman. Well, that last one shouldn't count. Anyway, of all the games that bear the name Super, one of my personal favorites is a game that many know, yet few people ever seem to talk about. It's a game of life and death. It's a game of dodgeball. Super Dodgeball was released for the Nintendo Entertainment System by Technos Japan Corporation in 1989. It is based on the arcade version of Super Dodgeball, which was originally part of a video game series called Kunio-kun. Kunio-kun games span many different genres, but you typically play as the recurring protagonist, Kunio. It's kind of like Mario, only not Mario. That's right, buddy, he's not you. He never will be. You're number one. However, like Mario, the Kunio-kun game series still continues to this very day. There were actually quite a few games from this series that were localized for the North American market and released for the NES. Which would explain the similar looking art and recycled music and sound effects. In Super Dodgeball, you play as Team USA as they compete against 8 other teams representing different countries in a World Cup tournament. Apparently, the Soviet team has dominated the sport for the last decade, so Team USA has got to take them down. I mean, it was the 1980s. When it came to villains, Russia was a pretty safe bet. Blame it on Drago. Each team has its own unique setting for a dodgeball match based on the represented country. Each team also has their own unique roster. Let's meet our team. Team USA. Sam, Randy, John, Mike, Bill, Steve. Each teammate has individual stats, giving them different strengths and weaknesses. There are 6 players on Team USA, but really, there is only one player that really matters. Sam. Sam is the best. Because Sam is really Kunio. Now, most people are at least vaguely familiar with the concept of dodgeball, but for those who might not be, or haven't seen the movie, you know the one. Allow me to explain. In dodgeball, there are 2 teams, each with 6 players. The court is split in 2 halves, each team having their own half of the court. The object of the game is to use the dodgeball to hit the opposing team members, thus eliminating them. If a player catches the opposing team's thrown dodgeball, the player who threw the ball is out and one of the catcher's teammates is able to rejoin the game. When an entire team has been eliminated, the game is over and the team left standing wins the game. In Super Dodgeball, 3 of your team members play from the inner court, while your other 3 team members surround the opposing team's outer court. The object of hitting the opposing team members with the ball is the same, however, one hit will not eliminate the player. Instead, each player has a life bar. This is a video game after all. Once a life bar is depleted, the player is eliminated. The only benefits of catching a thrown ball are now having control of the ball and, of course, not being hit. When a team loses their 3 inner court players, the game is over. The team left standing wins. Now for the first match, it looks like we're flying to the United States. Oh, that's right. Your team has to qualify for the World Cup by defeating another dodgeball team from the United States called the All-Star Team. And just who are these All-Stars? Team All-Stars. Jack, Tom, Fred, Ben, Paul, David. Before each match begins, you can change the positions of your teammates. Typically, you'll want to put your 3 favorite players in the inner court spots, considering you'll be using them for 90% of the match. We're gonna go with Steve, Bill, and Sam. Let's do this. In every match, you automatically start with the ball. Anytime one of your teammates has possession of the ball, you assume control of that player. When on offense, you can throw the ball at your opponents or pass the ball to both your inner and outer court teammates. You can also perform a jump while throwing or passing. Use the D-pad to move both your player and select the direction you are throwing or passing the ball. You can also make your character run by double tapping left or right on the D-pad. You can perform a power shot by starting a run before you throw the ball. Power shots deal far greater damage than a regular shot. You'll want to get as close to the center line as possible to use these shots to give your opponents less time to react. However, if you wait too long to release, you'll cross the line and be forced to drop the ball, thus giving the other team a free shot and looking stupid. When on defense, you take control of the inner court player that the opposing team is targeting for the next attack. Your character will blink to indicate this. You can either attempt to catch the ball that has been thrown at your player or duck underneath it. Even though timing your catch can be tricky when your character is constantly blinking, it's still your best bet to avoid being hit. The amount of damage dealt by a successful hit is indicated by a number that appears over the player's head. The display at the top of the screen shows you how much health each inner court player has. Outer court players cannot be eliminated. However, you can still hit them with the ball. There's no reason. It's just funny. One aspect of the game that I've always found odd are the eliminations. You see, when a player is eliminated, he doesn't just leave the court. He dies. He dies! He turns into an angel and flies away. This is a sports game. It doesn't involve guns or swords or even fighting in general, and yet people die? Imagine if that was the case in all sports games. So this is it. The winner goes on to face the rest of the world on a quest for total dodgeball dominance. I assume this is meant to be a warm-up match for the player because the all-star team isn't terribly difficult to defeat. After the game, the winning team celebrates their victory, while the losing team cries. Because their teammates are dead. Regardless, we move on to the World Cup. Team England. James, Scott, Henry, Roger, Peter, Big Cliff. The first team you go up against in the World Cup is England. This team is only slightly more competent than the All-Stars, which is to say they're also not terribly difficult to defeat. One cool aspect of this stage is the music. The theme is actually a hodgepodge of renditions of different Beatles songs. Beyond that, there isn't much to remark on, except for maybe James's head. What is that about? Anyway, bing, bang, boom. Team India. Rajiv, Swami, Bhatta, Kumar, Zail, Akbar. This is the point where the game starts to get more challenging. Team India might even have the best defense out of any other team in the game. They constantly pass the ball around between the inner and outer court players. They also have a high damage capacity, making them resilient to power shots. Uh-oh, Sam's been knocked goofy. When a player's health gets low, they'll briefly become dazed every time they're knocked down by the ball, which can leave them open for attack. Uh-oh, we lost Sam. It's okay though. Bill has a wicked power shot. Even so, this may take a while. In fact, anyone who has played this game enough will tell you that Swami will be the last one you'll have to eliminate. He is going to drag this out. That was for Sam. Team Iceland. Helgi, Knut, Hans, Bjorn, Niels, Gisby. Now we're in Iceland, and you'll immediately notice that this team has got a good amount of health. You'll also notice that the court is made of ice, which will cause the players to slide around. As much as I appreciate the unique stage design, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to point out that clearly the good folks at Technos Japan Corporation did not pay attention in World Geography class. If they did, they'd know that Iceland is green and Greenland is ice. Although I am fully on board with the giant happy penguins. One good thing about the slick floors is that even if the opposing team is able to catch a thrown power shot, the impact will typically still send them out of bounds, forcing them to give up possession of the ball, which should help you make relatively short work of them.
Team China! Wang! Hassa! Loi! Chu! Bao! Soy!
What can be said about Team China? Well, according to the game manual, Team China is defense-oriented and the players are excellent receivers. And yes, that's true. They are excellent at receiving the ball. In the face! Simply put, there are more difficult teams that you'll encounter. Though they can sometimes surprise you. But so can Steve. Well, moving on.
Team Kenya! Yummy! Oba!
Ta-ha!
Iyo! Bawagi! Mawai!
The Kenyans are a pretty solid team, and their power shots can be very difficult to avoid. The same way the ice ground affects movement in Iceland, the dirt ground affects your ability to run, causing you to stutter step before you start moving forward. Which is actually very helpful for delivering a power shot quickly, because you don't have to move further back to start a run. Which means if you strike quickly enough, you can really take advantage of your stunned opponents. Ah yes, sideline eliminations. Cheap, but effective.
Team Japan! Fuji! Sato! Honda! Aoki! Oda! Hino!
We're in Japan for the semifinals. Look, there's Fuji. No, Fuji, who looks suspiciously like Helgi, who looks suspiciously like James. And Honda looks like Mike, Ben, Scott, Gisley, and Bawagi. Yes, if you're even remotely paying attention, you'll notice that the characters are repainted and recycled throughout the game. But to be fair, the players at least have some personality beyond their jersey colors. I mean, at least they have faces, unlike most other NES sports games. Creepy. In the Japanese version of Super Dodgeball, otherwise known as Neketsu Kuku Dodgeball Boo, I think, you actually play as Japan. Though not this game's version of Japan, but rather a reskinned version of Team USA. Or I guess more accurately, this game's Team USA is a reskinned version of the Japanese version's Team Japan. Which makes sense because, again, Sam is just Kunio from the Japanese version. Well, hold on. What does Sam look like in the Japanese version? Oh, come on! Grrr. Sam Smash! And once Team Japan is defeated, there was only one team left to beat.
Team USSR! Boris! Ivan! Pavel! Igor! Yakov! Wolf!
It's the finals. It's a winner-take-all showdown between USA and USSR. In the Japanese version, you actually play the USSR in the middle of the World Cup and go on to play Team USA in the finals. Team USSR is easily the most difficult team you'll come up against. They have high energy, high damage capacity, and pretty much high everything. But they don't have Sam. Yeah. Boom! One down. Yeah. Uh-oh. Ouch. No, no, no. Boom. One left. Sam, you know what to do. That's it. We did it. We won the World Cup. USA, 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 US. As a little bonus, if you are able to defeat Team USSR without losing any of your players, you are then transported to the Shadow World to play a match against a dark version of Team USA known as Team Shadow. Team Shadow is just an evil version of Team USA, so you already know their names. We don't really need to do the bit, do we?
Team Shadow. Sam, John, Mike, Bill, Steve, Randy.
The Shadow World itself is a dark version of the USSR. Well, a darker version of the USSR. It looks cool, if not a little seizure-inducing. If you thought catching the ball was difficult before, just wait until there is lightning constantly lighting up the screen. Again, Team Shadow is a mirror image of Team USA. In fact, they mirror Team USA's player positions and even have the same exact stats. Fortunately, that means they don't have absurdly large life bars. Unfortunately, they do have Sam. But then again, so do we. That's right, it's Sam versus Sam. Steve versus Steve. Bill versus Bill. Oh no! Evil Sam made Bill go goofy. It's time for Good Sam to end this. So now that we've won the Dodgeball World Cup, and apparently the Dodgeball Shadow World Cup, we are transported back to the real world where we can finally celebrate our victory. Evil has been vanquished, and all is right in the world. Truly a happy ending for all. Wait a minute. Well, that's what you can expect from the World Cup, but there are actually a couple of other game modes to play. If you have a friend over, you can play each other in versus play, where you can actually choose which team to play as. Which is cool, but the best thing about versus mode is the music. So good. Oh, now there's an audience? Where were they for the World Cup? And finally, there is Beanball mode, which is basically a free-for-all between the members of Team USA. It's supposedly every man for himself, but if you are anywhere near the player with the ball, they will come after you. And if you are eliminated, the game ends and all the survivors celebrate, even though it's supposed to be every man for himself. And that's Super Dodgeball for Nintendo. Great graphics, great music, and it strikes the perfect balance between fun and challenging. It doesn't even really need a sequel. That being said, there are many sequels. A lot of people have recently rediscovered the joys of Super Dodgeball by downloading it from the Nintendo Switch Store. Speaking of which, the Nintendo Switch Store also contains quite a few kunio-kun games. Again, like Mario, only not Mario. Which is a bit unfair, I know, since Mario is the ultimate video game mascot. I mean, seriously, in what backwards, kooky, bizarro world is Kunio more popular than Mario?
And that's Nukatsu Kuku Dodgeball, another great game starring the great Kunio. Kunio is best. We have no more time. Next time I see you. Bye-bye.